The side few know. This title already carries a promise. Everyone knows the hits, the Grammys, Finny Beauty, and the billions of dollars. But very few people know the real story behind it all, and it is precisely this story that will change the way you see success, resilience, and the power of betting on yourself when the world still doesn't believe in you. If you stop to think about how many artists have dominated the music charts and then simply disappeared, you'll understand why Rihanna is a special case. She has accumulated 14 #1 hits on Billboard, sold over 60 million albums, and is still among the most listened to artists on Spotify, all without releasing a single album in the last 9 years. This isn't luck, it's something much deeper than any formula for success could explain. Most pop artists need to be everywhere at once to stay relevant, posting on social media, releasing singles every 3 months, appearing in endless collaborations. Rihanna did the opposite and still maintained 87 million monthly listeners on Spotify, a number that would make any active artist envious. Think about it. How many people do you know who still listen to an artist who hasn't released anything since 2016? The music industry has its rules, and the vast majority of artists follow them to the letter for fear of fading into obscurity. Rihanna simply ignored this manual and built such a solid legacy that the rules ceased to apply to her. It's the kind of phenomenon that appears once in a generation, and understanding how it happened is what will change the way you see true success. But to understand how someone reaches this level of relevance and resilience, it's necessary to go back to the beginning, to a small island in the Caribbean where nothing indicated that a humble girl would one day shake the entire world. Barbados is an island known for its idyllic beaches and vibrant culture, but Rihanna's childhood was far from a picture-perfect picture. She grew up in a humble 2-bedroom house with her parents and siblings, in an environment marked by instability and constant fear. Her father, Ronald Finney, struggled with alcohol and cocaine addiction, turning each day at home into a kind of emotional Russian roulette. Fights between the parents were frequent and often escalated into physical violence, with the mother being assaulted in front of the children. Rihanna even developed such intense headaches that doctors had to perform a CT scan to rule out a tumor, and the diagnosis was simple and devastating. It was stress. A child carrying the weight of a broken home is an image that speaks louder than any statistic about childhood trauma. It was precisely in this chaos that music entered her life as an escape valve, a safe place where the outside world stopped making noise. Mariah Carey was her first great inspiration, and Rihanna even performed at a school show singing the song Hero without knowing she was rehearsing her own path. It's curious how art often arises exactly where the pain is greatest. Imagine this scenario. A successful American producer is vacationing on a Caribbean island with fewer inhabitants than the city of Miami, and by pure chance ends up meeting the girl who will become one of the most successful artists in music history. It sounds like a movie script, but that's exactly how Evan Rogers entered Rihanna's life. He and his partner Carl Stucken had already worked with names like NSYNC and Christina Aguilera, so when Rogers agreed to listen to a group of local girls, he knew exactly what he was looking for. Rihanna arrived late to the hotel meeting, but when she entered the room, the other 2 girls practically ceased to exist. Rogers described that moment saying that she had an X factor in her voice and a presence that was impossible to ignore. She sang a version of Destiny's Child's Emotion. It was still a little raw, but the potential was there, screaming for anyone with ears trained enough to hear it. Imagine being 16 years old, having never left your native island until recently, and suddenly finding yourself sitting in a room with Jay-Z, one of the most powerful men in the global music industry. That was the scenario Rihanna faced when she was taken to an audition at Def Jam, a record label that was being restructured with Jay-Z taking over as president. She herself confessed that she was trembling in the waiting room, feeling cold and butterflies in her stomach, barely able to look Jay-Z in the eye. The audition was a success, but Jay-Z had his reservations. He'd seen too many artists with incredible music who simply faded away after their first hit, and he didn't want to sign a one-hit wonder. What he was looking for was a complete artist, someone capable of building a consistent career over time, and Rihanna needed to convince him of that in a single night. She sang Pon de Replay, Whitney Houston, and one more track, and the room grew increasingly quiet in a good way. What happened after that audition went down in music history in a way that mixes admiration and discomfort at the same time. Jay-Z wouldn't let Rihanna leave without signing the contract, keeping the meeting going until 3 in the morning while his lawyers drafted the agreement on the spot. He even said she could walk out the door with the signed contract or out the window without it. And considering they were on the 29th floor, the message was pretty clear. That early morning at Def Jam was the moment when Rihanna's fate was sealed, for better or for worse. A 6-album contract before even releasing an EP was a huge gamble, but it was also the gateway to a level of success that very few people in the world get to experience, and the next step would be to prove that Jay-Z hadn't made a mistake in his choice. When Pon de Replay debuted on the Billboard charts in 2005, many in the industry were still skeptical about that girl from Barbados who had come out of nowhere. The song slowly climbed the charts, but steadily increased until it reached number 2, only behind Mariah Carey's Comeback, who, incidentally, was one of Rihanna's biggest inspirations since childhood. It was as if the universe had a very particular sense of humor at that moment. Rihanna's debut album, Music of the Sun, wasn't universally acclaimed by critics, but it served its purpose by demonstrating that she had her own distinct sound, blending dancehall, reggae, and pop in a way that few American artists were exploring at the time. Less than a year later came A Girl Like Me, more polished and ambitious, with the single SOS reaching number 1 and quickly achieving triple platinum certification. In less than 2 years of her career, she had already proven that she wasn't just a musical artist. It was with Good Girl Gone Bad in 2007 that Rihanna made the definitive leap to another level. She traded her innocent teenage image for a more mature and daring aesthetic, and Umbrella became one of the most recognizable anthems of the decade. The reinvention was so well executed that many critics began to compare her to Madonna, precisely because of her ability to completely change without losing the essence that made people connect with her. In just 3 years of her career, Rihanna had accumulated Grammy Awards, consecutive hits on the Billboard charts, and a global fan base that grew with each release. On the eve of the 2009 Grammy Awards, Rihanna was one of the hottest artists on the planet, with a confirmed performance at the ceremony and the whole world watching her. What no one expected was that, in the following hours, her name would be in the headlines for a completely different and devastating reason. Chris Brown, her boyfriend at the time and also one of the most promising young talents in American R&B, brutally assaulted her after an argument that began at a pre-Grammy party. Photos of Rihanna's injuries leaked to the press through TMZ, and the shock was immediate and global. Chris Brown was arrested, accepted a plea deal that included 5 years of probation and a restraining order, but the damage was already done, both for him and for her. The difference is that Rihanna chose to transform that pain into art, channeling the trauma into the album Rated R, which arrived with a dark sound and lyrics that spoke of violence, resilience, and starting over without needing to mention names. The impact of that episode was so great that it even led to a change in American legislation, with the so-called Rihanna Law being proposed to prevent photos obtained by law enforcement from being leaked to the media. This speaks volumes about the magnitude of the legacy she already carried at that time, even as a 21-year-old trying to rebuild her life in front of billions of eyes. Few artists would have the strength to transform such a traumatic experience into creative fuel in this way. The affair with Chris Brown marked a clear division in Rihanna's career and personal life, a before and after that shaped not only her music, but also her image in the world. And while he never fully recovered from the episode in terms of image and career, she moved forward with a determination that only those who have been through something similar can understand. Behind every great success story, there's almost always another story that nobody tells. And in Rihanna's case, that story has a name and surname: Tierra Mari. When Rihanna was signed to Def Jam, there was another young artist at the label who was treated as the label's big prospect, someone Jay-Z and L.A. Reid believed would be the next big star of American R&B. Tierra Mari had talent, she had presence, and she had the label's full support, at least for a while. Tierra's first album debuted at number 5 on the Billboard 200, a better result than Rihanna's debut, and everything indicated that she had a long career ahead of her. But when Beyoncé, still at the helm of Destiny's Child, watched a performance by Rihanna at a Def Jam showcase and whispered to L.A. Reid that this girl was a beast, the record label's priorities changed overnight. The focus and resources that were previously allocated to Tierra were redirected to Rihanna, without ceremony or warning. What happened next is one of the darkest episodes in the modern music industry. On the same day that Tierra Mari graduated from high school, she received a call informing her that she was being dropped by Def Jam. A teenager who had given everything for her career was discarded as if she were an unnecessary file, without time to react and without any consideration for the human being behind the contract. The music industry can be brutally efficient at turning people into products and discarding them when more lucrative options arise. Tierra Mari's journey after Def Jam was a series of failed attempts to regain success, battles with alcoholism, and constant exposure on reality television that always portrayed her in a negative light. If there's one skill that separates artists who last for decades from those who disappear after 2 or 3 albums, it's the ability to reinvent themselves without losing their essence. Rihanna understood this instinctively from an early age, and it's no coincidence that throughout her career, she has been repeatedly compared to Madonna, an artist who built her legacy precisely on this capacity for constant transformation. Each Rihanna album seemed to be released by a different person, but with an unmistakable soul underneath it all. From the carefree Caribbean sound of Music of the Sun to the dark and visceral aesthetic of Rated R, passing through the danceable energy of Loud and the artistic maturity of Anti. Each turn was calculated and at the same time genuine. She never changed simply because of market pressure or because some Def Jam executive thought it was time to try something new. Rihanna's reinvention has always come from within, from a real need to grow as an artist and as a human being, and the public felt that authenticity in every track. What makes this ability even more impressive is that each new phase of her career managed to win over both old fans and new audiences who didn't even know they liked Rihanna until they heard her in this new format. This is extremely rare in the music industry, where most artists get stuck in a formula that worked once and are afraid to abandon it. Rihanna threw that manual out the window and came out on top every time she did. Few discussions in the music world are as heated as the one surrounding Rihanna's voice, and the curious thing is that this controversy has accompanied her entire career without ever managing to diminish her success by even an inch. She is a mezzo-soprano with a 3-octave range, was elected among the 200 greatest singers of all time by Rolling Stone, and yet there are those who question her technique with an almost philosophical conviction. It's the kind of debate that says much more about how we judge talent than about the artist herself. One of the most talked about episodes in this controversy involved the song "The Monster," a collaboration with Eminem that became one of both artists' biggest hits. What many people didn't know was that the backing vocals on the track belonged to Bebe Rexha, who had originally written and recorded those parts and later revealed that she had asked for her vocals not to be used because she believed no one could replicate them with the same delivery. Bebe's vocals remained in the final version because Rihanna couldn't reproduce them in the same way. And when this became public, the debate about her vocal ability gained a new chapter. What many critics ignore in this discussion is that Rihanna never had formal singing lessons until she was 19, when her label mate Neo taught her basic breathing and diction techniques in the studio. While Mariah Carey grew up with a soprano mother who trained her from childhood, and Lady Gaga had piano lessons from the age of 4, Rihanna arrived in the industry with raw talent and a magnetic presence that no music school can teach. Grammy after Grammy, Billboard after Billboard, the market delivered its verdict in a way that no critic could refute. If her relationship with Chris Brown was the darkest chapter in Rihanna's personal life, the saga with Drake was the longest, the most confusing, and probably the most talked about on the internet for almost a decade. The two met in 2005 when Drake appeared as an extra in the music video for Pon de Replay at a restaurant in Toronto, and from that first encounter, they built a friendship that the whole world became obsessed with trying to turn into a romance. The problem is that Rihanna never seemed very interested in following the script that fans had written for them. For years, they denied any romantic involvement, collaborated on hits like What's My Name and Work, were photographed together on numerous occasions, and fueled rumors without ever definitively confirming anything. Drake even publicly declared her his ultimate fantasy in 2014, while Rihanna stated in interviews that Chris Brown had been her last real boyfriend, leaving Drake in a rather uncomfortable position in front of the world's cameras. It's the kind of situation any normal person would have resolved in a 5-minute conversation, but when you're one of the most famous artists on the planet, nothing is ever that simple. The climax of this whole mess happened at the 2016 MTV Video Music Awards, when Drake took the stage to present the Vanguard Award to Rihanna and gave such an affectionate speech that it seemed more like a declaration of love than a formal presentation. He said he had been in love with her since he was 22, tried to kiss her, which she dodged with surgical elegance, and the internet exploded with memes that lasted for months. A year later, Rihanna confirmed in an interview that they weren't even friends anymore, and she even covered up a tattoo they had gotten together as if she were closing a chapter for good. After 6 albums released at a rapid pace by Def Jam, Rihanna arrived at Anti with something she never had before: time, control, and an unwavering will to do exactly what she wanted without asking anyone's permission. The album took 4 years to complete, was self-financed through a multi-million-dollar deal with Samsung, and released by her own label, Westbury Road Studios, in partnership with Jay-Z's Roc Nation. It was a declaration of artistic independence as clear as any lyric she could write. The result was something no one expected from an artist known for dance hits and polished radio productions. Anti sounded like an intimate conversation, full of layers, references to soul and classic R&B, with Rihanna more present in the songwriting and creative decisions than in any previous project. Kanye West participated as executive producer, and vocal producer Kirk Harrell revealed that she delved into the technical details of recording in a way that surprised the entire team. The album was critically acclaimed as the best work of her career, and time has only confirmed this verdict. The numbers that Anti has accumulated over the years are otherworldly, considering the album never had a traditional promotional campaign. It became the first album by a Black woman to spend 300 weeks on the Billboard 200, and it's still on the chart today, more than 8 years after its release. Songs like Needed Me, Work, and Kiss It Better have become permanent fixtures of pop culture without needing a flashy music video or a manufactured controversy to grab attention. In 2017, when Rihanna launched Fenty Beauty in partnership with the LVMH Group, many people thought it was just another celebrity cosmetics line, one of those that appear with fanfare and disappear in 2 years without leaving any trace. What happened was exactly the opposite, and in such an overwhelming way that the beauty industry had to sit down and rethink practically everything it thought it knew about the market. The line debuted with 40 foundation shades, from the lightest to the deepest, at a time when most brands offered a maximum of 12 options and hoped that everyone would fit into one of them. Fenty Beauty's proposition wasn't just to sell makeup. It was to recognize that people of all backgrounds and skin tones deserve products that truly work for them. Rihanna, whose African, Irish, and Scottish roots allow her to understand firsthand, literally, what it means not to find herself on a cosmetics shelf, placing this experience at the heart of the business. Inclusivity wasn't a marketing slogan. It was the backbone of everything, and the public immediately recognized the difference. In just 1 month of sales, Fenty Beauty grossed $72 million and earned a place on Time magazine's list of the 25 best inventions of the year, alongside the iPhone X and the Tesla Model 3. But Rihanna wasn't just the pretty face on the packaging. She was the CEO, owned 50% of the company, and was involved in the creative and strategic decisions of the business from start to finish. Bernard Arnault himself, chairman of LVMH and one of the richest men in the world, publicly stated that he had discovered in her a true entrepreneur, a natural leader who knew exactly what she wanted to build. In less than 4 years, Fenty Beauty was valued at $2.8 billion, and the line expanded to more than 15 countries, reaching markets in Africa, the Middle East, and China. The success of Fenty Beauty paved the way for an empire that has only grown from there, with Fenty Fashion becoming the first new fashion house in the LVMH group since 1987. In addition to Fenty Skin, Savage X Fenty, and Fenty Hair, each carrying the same DNA of inclusivity that has made the brand irresistible. There's a huge difference between being rich and being a billionaire, and that difference goes far beyond the zeros in your bank account. Being a billionaire means having built something that generates value independently, something that grows even while you're sleeping, taking care of your children, or simply living life. Rihanna understood this in a way that very few artists of her generation have managed to grasp, and in 2021 Forbes officially confirmed what had been brewing for some years. She had become the first billionaire musician in history. The most revealing aspect of this achievement is that the majority of her fortune didn't come from music. The concerts, albums, Grammys, and dozens of Billboard hits were just the starting point, the platform that gave her enough visibility and credibility to build something much bigger. Just as Kanye West became a billionaire through Yeezy and Jay-Z through his portfolio of investments in real estate and startups, Rihanna built her fortune through Fenty Beauty and Savage X Fenty, proving that an artist's true legacy can completely transcend the stage and the recording studio. With an estimated net worth of $1.4 billion in 2026, she became the second richest Black woman in the world, second only to Oprah Winfrey. A comparison that speaks volumes about the magnitude of what she has built. And what's most impressive is that all of this was achieved by a girl who grew up in a 2-bedroom house in Barbados, without access to business schools, without a family inheritance, and without any manual explaining how to become a billionaire from a Caribbean island. She simply kept going, making mistakes, learning, and starting over with a resilience that few can sustain for so long. Rihanna's journey as an entrepreneur is a practical lesson in what happens when someone combines talent, vision, and the courage to make decisions that the market hasn't yet understood. She didn't wait for someone to give her permission to be more than a singer. She simply decided she would be, and the business world was never the same after that. After Anti, Rihanna did something no music marketing expert would recommend to any artist at the peak of their career. She simply stopped. No dramatic announcements, no controversial statements, no official hiatus. She gradually withdrew from the scene, prioritizing business, personal life, and a freedom she probably hadn't truly experienced since she was 15. And the most disconcerting thing of all is that the longer she remained musically silent, the more obsessed the world seemed with her. In her personal life, she found in A$AP Rocky something that seemed to have eluded her for a long time: stability and genuine companionship. The two had been friends for almost a decade before making their relationship public, and when they finally got together, the atmosphere around Rihanna changed noticeably. They had 3 children, the youngest born in 2025, and she began to speak about motherhood with an intensity that made it clear that this was the role that most fulfilled her at that moment in her life. In Barbados, she was declared a national heroine by the government, an honor that summarized in a few words a journey that began on a humble street called Westbury Road and reached the biggest stages on the planet. The only time she returned to the musical spotlight in a significant way was at the 2023 Super Bowl, where she performed the most-watched halftime show in the event's history. She took to the stage pregnant, sang her biggest hits, and reminded the world why no one can remain indifferent to her, even after years without releasing anything. In 2026, rumors about her highly anticipated ninth album, affectionately called R9 by fans, intensified after she posted a video on social media showing a late-night studio visit and declared that the new project would be nothing like what anyone expected. Rihanna's story is the most compelling proof that true legacy isn't measured by the quantity of content you produce, but by the depth of the impact you make. She left Barbados with nothing but a voice, unwavering determination, and the courage to bet on herself when no one else would, and built an empire that goes far beyond any Billboard or Grammy. And if R9 ever arrives, you can be sure the world will stop to listen. Rihanna's resilience didn't come from some supernatural talent she possesses alone. It came from the repeated decision, every day, to keep going even when the path wasn't clear. It came from the courage to reinvent herself when comfort demanded she stand still. It came from the ability to transform pain into creation, failure into learning, and invisibility into legacy. These are skills anyone can develop, as long as they make the decision to begin. If you want to keep up with stories like this, that go beyond the surface and show you the side of the world's biggest names that few people know, subscribe to the channel now and turn on notifications. There's much more content like this on the way, and you won't want to miss any of it.